I've been asked to make a comment on the background of this performance. The 3 monologues on this tape were recorded at the first Possible Society training seminar in New Paltz, New York in the summer of 1987. Each one was written in direct response to a workshop challenge by Jean Houston. And they show how she acts as a master evocateur, stretching the imagination and stirring up the creative juices of her workshop participants. I was a performer and a playwright, but I had never before worked in just this way. The forms evolved as I worked on the assignments. The 3 pieces emphasize what Jean Houston considers to be the bedrock of the transformational process, the power of the necessity for stories. We are, she says, storied beings. Our lives are illuminated by myth and story. Myth and story connect us to universal archetypal realities. As we relate to the stages of the story, we literally, physically, psychologically, spiritually expand the dimensions of who and what we are. We become, in effect, amplified beings. The first very gory story, Bloodfeud, The Life and Death of Clytemnestra, was first performed with my great excitement in Greece during a workshop journey at the very pinnacle, the top of the ancient ruins of Mycenae, where the queen, Clytemnestra, was said to have murdered her husband Agamemnon, the unlucky victor in the war against Troy, and then was murdered in turn by her son Orestes. The reason I was so prepared with this monologue when we arrived in Greece was that sometime before, Jean Houston had asked me in workshop, without warning, as she so often does, to enact as a kind of one-woman improvisation, an ancient story to illustrate her lecture on the Greek tragic poets. At that time, I had only a very passing acquaintance with the myths, and I did the best that I could. But then I went to the literature, and I filled myself with the myths. I filled myself, and I devised a monologue based on Robert Graves and Edith Hamilton and Aeschylus's trilogy, the Oresteia. And I told the story as I imagined Clytemnestra might have told it, so that when we arrived in Greece, I was ready. The second piece is a series of poetic vignettes tracing a very contemporary life from childhood to old age. What inspired this was an exercise called the Epiphany of the Moment, which is described in detail in Jean Houston's book, The Possible Human. The exercise, the assignment, was to stop throughout the day, many times throughout the day, not in moments of high ecstasy, but doing the most mundane, the most trivial acts, tying our shoes, brushing our teeth, and in that instant, becoming totally present, luminous, experiencing the world as if all creation were blooming and we were a part of it. I had never worked in this way. I had seldom written poetry, but this exercise made me see the world in a new way, and I just scribbled down my reactions. Later, I edited them, and I made choices so that they formed a coherent whole. But before the month was out, I had 100 bits and pieces, poems, out of which, miraculously, the performance text, Miss Laughinghouse and the listener, evolved. The third piece, the encore, the true story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, was written for a workshop on the esoteric reading of the biblical book of Genesis. Jean Houston asked me to write a monologue that would describe the serpent as an agent for change. And miraculously, it turned into a celebration of stories. Come with me. I will take you back in time to hear a tale of blood, of vengeance, a tale so old it was already old when sung by bards in ancient Greece. It is about the Trojan War, what went before and after. The legend has been told in many ways. I will tell it with the voice of Clytemnestra, who was wife of Agamemnon, who was son of Atreus, who was son of Pelops, who was son of Tantalus. Hear the chorus cry, sorrow, sing sorrow, but may the good prevail. Come, be my chorus. Sorrow, sing sorrow, but may the good prevail. Sorrow, sing sorrow, but may the good prevail. I am Clytemnestra, and many years have passed since I raised the sword and slew my husband Agamemnon in accordance with the will of Zeus. And still my child Electra prowls the lightless lower reaches of the palace, dressed in rags, berating me, reviling me, crying out that I have killed her father, pleading that her brother come from exile, Orestes, and take my life in payment for the deed. Orestes, whom we sent away, not exiled, but to loving friends to save his baby life when fathers' hands were killing children. Were he to come, oh, were he to come, would he follow on the path Electra's madness leads and kill this mother who loves him still? Or would he put his loving arms about me and hear my reasonings? Were he to come, Orestes, I would say, did they teach you there in Phocis when you were growing up that you are progeny of Atreus, of Tantalus, and all your acts are set by the gods to do their bidding? Were he to come, Orestes, I would say, your father's death no murder was, but justice in accordance with the will of Zeus. I am the spokesperson for Zeus. Call me not Agamemnon's wife. I am the ancient curse of Atreus, but in the form of Clytemnestra. Were he to come, Orestes, I would say, this gory game of gods began in ancient days when Tantalus, beloved friend of Zeus, killed his son called Pelops and served him up as supper for the gods. This so outraged them that they punished him. They laid a curse upon his house forevermore, the art of vengeance. To the doer, thus it would be done. And then they further punished Tantalus. They tantalized him, you know the word, decreeing that he spend eternity with food and water always out of reach. Then they brought young Pelops back to life. He grew and fathered sons, Atreus and Thyestes, one of whom was destined to be wealthy beyond measure and king of Mycenae. Atreus, firstborn, claimed the throne and had a golden fleece to prove the claim. Thyestes said in seeming innocence, "I think whoever has a golden fleece, he should be king." "Agreed," cried Atreus, not knowing that his wife had stolen from his house, and with the fleece she stole as well, had just betrayed him in his brother's bed. Thyestes is the king. Atreus swears revenge. He invokes the grace of great god Zeus, who, for reasons that you know, commands the sun to stand still in the sky and set there in the east, for which miracle Atreus claims the throne. Thyestes yields. But not content with just this victory, Atreus kills his brother's young twin boys and butchers them and cooks them both and sets the steaming meats before their sire and watches as he eats. Thyestes now is finished with the feast, licks the last bit from his lips, wipes his fingers on a moistened cloth, taking comfort in the thought that peace has now been made, when here comes Atreus, holding aloft a tray on which the severed heads, the fingers, feet of those dear children lay, and knows Thyestes now what he has eaten of. Oh, what a roar of anguish gushes from that throat. What a giant vomiting up of babe's sweet flesh. Curses of all the gods betrayed are now heaped down upon the head of Atreus, who authored this foul deed. The oracle at Delphi tells Thyestes how to move the next revengeful markers on the board. Seek your daughter out, your fair Pelopeia, and in her womb plant you there your seed. He does. Masked, with sword, at dark of night he rapes his child. She steals the sword and keeps it for remembrance. Mark the sword. And then, to make the threads more knotted still, Atreus, not knowing she is niece to him or that she is about to bear his brother's child, marries her. And when she takes the fruit of incest and places it upon a hillside there to die, he, thinking it his own, rescues the boy, calls the lad Aegisthus, and brings him home to grow up with his true-born sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus. Aegisthus, when barely 7 years of age, will take that sword we spoke about, and at Thyestes' charge plunge it in his uncle Atreus' sleeping breast. And once again Thyestes is the king and rules until my father, king of Sparta, sends him into exile, and Agamemnon, pushing young Aegisthus to the side, commands the throne and marches off in search of wealth and tribute. And now I enter in the tale. I am Clytemnestra, sister of Helen, who is wife of Menelaus, who is brother of Agamemnon. Clytemnestra, sister of Helen, who is wife of Menelaus, who is brother of Agamemnon. Agamemnon kills my husband, tears the nursing baby from my breast, dashing out its life upon the ground, marries me against my will, and takes me home to sit beside him on the throne of Argos. I am among the spoils of war. And yet, I am a perfect wife. I let my poor heart heal its agony. I spend my fortune on this Agamemnon's house. I nurse his wounds when he comes home from war. I hold my body open for his seed and give him children. For Iphigenia, Chrysothemis, Electra, Orestes, and the curse of the house of Atreus and Tantalus is forgotten in the joyous sounds of children laughing in the golden air. Until the gods decide to move the markers on the board again. Now here is Paris, son of Priam, king of Troy, watching sheep upon his hillside, being chosen by the outlaw goddess Discord to decide which of her sister goddesses is fairest of the fair. What a game for a grown man! What a shame for a goddess! And his prize for choosing Aphrodite? Helen, my sister Helen, wife of Menelaus Helen, the most beautiful woman on earth, Helen. It was pledged by all her suitors that if any harm befell her, they would rally round her husband and avenge the deed with war. And so they do. When Helen, knowing well the fateful consequences, flees to Troy with Paris, Menelaus gathers he the pride of Greece to bring her back no matter what the cost. And here they come, 1,000 ships, tens upon tens of thousands of men met here in port at Aulis, readying for tragedy in Troy. And yet they cannot sail. At first the ships are all becalmed, and then winds too fierce, storm too bold, food is gone, famine strike, plague descends. North winds are a sign, the prophet Calchas cries, that Artemis looks not with favor on this enterprise, and for success demands a virgin's sacrifice. Yes, Artemis looked not with favor on that mindless, monstrous journey, and for success demands a monstrous sacrifice. A sacrifice which any sane man would refuse and stay here safe at home in Argos. But not Agamemnon, leader of his brother's fleets. Oh, Orestes, you were there then, though but a toddling babe with no words yet to say the horrors that your eyes beheld. You were there then when your father said it was your sister's wedding day, and trusting Iphigenia, garlanded and sandaled in her golden wedding gown, danced down to Aulis, there to meet the knife your father held, there to meet her bridegroom Death. Oh, Orestes, you were there then, do you not recall her cry? Father, Father, do not kill me so young. He would not hear her plea, nor mine. Tell me, if they ask you why you're killing her, what will you say, so that Menelaus may get Helen back? To pay a child's life as ransom for a whore? To buy what we despise with what we most dearly love? Nothing stayed his hand. Up, up they raised her, binding her sweet lips with a curb, and a father's hands were stained in dark streams flowing with the blood of his child slaughtered at the altar. Did Agamemnon wonder as he sailed for Troy and battled there for 10 long years? Did he wonder if this mother's wounded heart had healed? Did he wonder what my thoughts were in the palace as every room I wandered through, as every chair I looked upon was empty of her? Did he wonder if these breasts grew old with waiting, if this womb grew brittle with disuse, while he destroyed the very seed of life itself in Troy for Helen? And yet the 10 years passed. The river of my tears had long since dried when I beheld the blazing sight, the wondrous firelight that told of Agamemnon's victory in Troy. And here he comes. Here he comes, the flush of conquest on his face. Behind him sits Cassandra, seer, slave, and unceremonied wife. And here am I, who kept his house for him these 10 long years, his faithful cousin Aegisthus by my side. Welcome, welcome, I bid you welcome home. My eyes, my arms, my heart, all bid you welcome home. With the music and the banners of the fragrance of the cooking feast, I bid you welcome home. I would not have had you die in Troy. Do you hear Cassandra cry aloud that she smells blood? Oh, yes. I place my hand so tenderly upon his arm. I lead him over purple carpets fit for gods, and to the bath to wash away the stains of war. He has one foot still in the silver tub. I take a towel and move as if to wipe the last drop from his back, and fling instead a net about his head and arms from which he cannot extricate himself. Fish in a net, I lift the sword, and victory in Troy is lost at home. Twice do I strike him, and he cries out twice, and his limbs fail, and he falls a third blow, and offering to the god of hell to hold fast to the dead. And there he lies, gasping, and his blood spouts and spatters me with a fine spray, a dew of death as sweet to me as heaven's sweet raindrops on a farmer's field. It is done. Long years ago I planned, now it is done. Children were slaughtered, and a man offered up in requital. To the doer, thus it shall be done. So, now you know, Orestes, that your father's death no murder was, but judgment in accordance with the will of Zeus. So you cannot heed Apollo's charge and take my life. Come, put your loving arms into the arms of Clytemnestra. No, no, I hear the song of death. No, no, Orestes, Orestes, stay your knife, or you will spend your end of days fleeing from my wild avenging furies. No, 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 Orestes, Orestes, look, see here, the breasts from which your baby lips, they drank the sweetest milk. I fear, my son, that you will kill your mother. What will be, will be. It will end as it must. And so she died, Clytemnestra, and Aegisthus too. They did not seem to learn, those old-time Greeks, that to the doer thus it would be done. Orestes, with his mother's blood upon his heart, now waits his turn. Orestes, hunted, haunted, hounded by the furies of his murdered mother, the barking, baying, snot-eyed, snake-haired furies. Orestes, foaming-mouthed with madness, soul-worn and spent, running, 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 sacrificing, seeking expiation. Finally, he comes to rest at Athens, by Apollo sent, there to clasp the statue of the goddess and seek trial by jury in the ancient world's first court of law. 6 jurors said that he had paid the price by pain and sacrifice. 6 said no, and so it was Athena cast the lone deciding vote. She said, "The endless round of killings must come to an end. The ancient law of personal revenge must be undone. Orestes must go free. The Furies, recognized and honored, become the kindly ones. Persuasion is the key." So, sorrow sings sorrow, but good shall prevail. Sorrow sings sorrow, but good shall prevail. sorrow, sing sorrow, but good shall prevail. When I was 5, Margie Gone said I was not graceful enough to be in her dancing class and I must watch. I thought it was pretty good. When I was 9, treatise of the sweet land of liberty. Miss Laughinghouse said I was not tuneful enough to be in her singing class and I must listen. Thought I was pretty good. When I was 47, Pearl Levine said I was not evolved enough to be in her consciousness-raising group, but I might audit. If they had said, come, dance with me, come sing with me, come grow with me, oh, what a difference. We lived in the suburbs, in the best of all possible worlds, and I was a good mama. I was a gopher and a chauffeur, and I spent my life in the car. I drove the kids to school, and I drove them to dancing, drove them to Boy Scouts, drove them to Campfire Girls, drove them to Little League, drove them to McDonald's for their daily fix of hamburger and Coke. I drove them to the dentist. I drove them to the doctor. I drove them to the psychiatrist, because I was a good mama. I was a gopher and a chauffeur, and I spent my life in the car. And now they eat miso and tofu and run marathons and nurse their babies on the subway and give me hell for Little Bighorn and Hiroshima, 3 Mile Island, Love Canal, acid rain, Agent Orange, unemployment, and the Ayatollah Khomeini. Because I was a good mama, I was a gopher and a chauffeur, and I spent my life in the car. In our backyard, there is a pond. And down by the pond, there's a big old clay flower pot with a couple of jaunty sprigs of last year's winter-killed mint in it, and 1 Canada goose. Hey, hey, what do you got, a Canada goose in a flower pot? Uh-huh, that goose climbed up, laid 5 eggs in that big old clay flower pot, and sits there for the whole world to see, just like a bloomin' petunia. And I stand at the window and beam with delight at the sight of that silly goose in the big old clay flower pot. Hey, hey, what do you got, a Canada goose in a flower pot? Uh-huh, and my husband comes by. He grins with amazement at my beaming with delight at the sight of that crazy goose in the big old clay flower pot. Hey, hey, what do you got? A Canada goose in a flower pot? Uh-huh. And the kids traipse by. They laugh out loud at my husband, grinning with amazement at my beaming with delight at the sight of that smart-ass goose in the big old clay flower pot. Hey, hey, what do you got? A Canada goose in a flower pot? Uh-huh. And when it comes to pleasure, that's a lot of mileage out of 1 goose without even eating her. I can just see your heart wondering what long-awaited gift to buy me for my birthday. Don't try so hard, my beloved. Just stand in the kitchen when I come down for breakfast and hold me without drifting away. Give me time to breathe in the fragrance of you. Don't think of the coffee bubbling out of the pot, or of the train puffing to the station, or of the newspaper waiting to be read, or of the clients eager to be seen. Don't think even of beguiling bedrooms or of sex. Just stand in the kitchen and hold me. That is all the gift I need, and it doesn't come in a box. It looks as if I am stirring the oatmeal, but the spoon is in my left hand and the pot handle in my right instead of the other way round as usual. And I'm breathing slowly down my legs so that I'm held up by my feet and not my thighs. And I'm humming a tone that fills my head with images as my kinesthetic body takes a short hop into the stratosphere and looks around, around, around. And I'm wondering how my next-door neighbor makes oatmeal. Before I discovered this new recipe, stirring the oatmeal was so boring. Let us say grace. By what miracle does this cracker made from Kansas wheat, this cheese ripened in French caves, these figs grown and dried near Ephesus, turn into me? My eyes, my hands, my cells, organs, juices, thoughts. Am I not then Kansas wheat and French cheese and Smyrna figs? Figs, no doubt, the ancient prophets ate. That I am here in this tight house with this good man, with these nice kids, these old friends, this fine food, warm clothes, and not in an earthquake or a revolution or a prison or a plague, puzzles me. I had a long talk with my son last night. I will never forget it. I have always known if only I could hear his heart, if only I could understand his understanding, if only I could crack that door stuck shut between us. And I did. I had a long talk with my son last night. I will never forget it. We sat in the kitchen, of course, and I trembled with both fear and joy at the intensity of the conversation. He was awash with cares, and deep, deep pain burned through his face. I answered with love and some confusion, and not without a bit of dread, but it was good. I had a long talk with my son last night. I will never forget it. Till 4 a.m. we sat and opened up our hearts and wept each other's tears, till even the chairs grew weary. I knew I'd never forget it. Still, when we kissed goodnight, I rushed to take the journal where I keep my thoughts and feelings should my memory ever fail me, and I recorded it. And now it is next week. I remember sitting there. I remember how he looked. I remember how I felt. But I cannot quite recall just what we said. And so with gratitude that I recorded it, I rushed to read the journal where I keep my thoughts and feelings should my memory ever fail me. And I open up the page, and this is what it says. I had a long talk with my son last night. I will never forget it. I have been reading the old myths. I have been reading of Uranus burying his sons alive deep inside the earth. Of Cronus gulping down his children one by one as they are born. Of Tantalus stewing Pelops in the pot as supper for the gods. Of Agave tearing Pentheus apart, limb from limb, with bare hands. Of Procne dishing up boiled Itys to his dad. Did she stuff a clump of parsley in his mouth when she cooked the boy? Are we doing it still? Killing our children in subtler ways, perhaps? The flower pot goslings have hatched. Natural childbirth with Papa floating by. No anesthesia or asepsis, no growling nurses with a forceps, no scowling doctors spanking buttocks, no silver nitrate or howling crib mate, just crack the egg and off you go. Hey! An invisible self-propelled egg beater blathers my blood down to the least tiniest cell as I race the bus to the corner and lose. Easy there, kid, say I to my hysterical heart. On what cosmic calendar is it written that only on this bus may you pursue your destiny? Oh, the bus on wheels and I flying afoot arrive at the corner simultaneously. Synchronicity comes to the real world. What a great day this is going to be. I have caught the bus. I have not caught the flu. And I remembered to pull out the plug of the electric coffee pot before I left the house. A gaggle of grandmothers is bullshitting about their children's children. The young woman standing beside me groans with envy. Are your kids wonderful? She asks. Yes, I reply, they're wonderful. But they're not wonderful. Oh, thank God, she sighs. I thought I was the only one. sunstruck book on my lap, left brain, right brain, corpus callosum and all points east, doing a number on the Kabbalah. Bus driver and I speed toward separate destinations in one vehicle. Book closed, eyes closed. The olive point is orchestrating the body dancing as the bus ruttles along, pocketing the potholes, but bouncing on the seat. Center within the obviously closed circuit of my head and enter all of outer space, without and within at the same time. Utterly impossible. Yet here I am, balanced on the cutting edge of paradox. Who tends the microfilm and makes the choice just which memory to pop into the scanner? Does the image come unbidden, or is there flicking through the card catalog in my head some super librarian whose acquaintance I have not yet made? Four tough men sit in the back of the bus drinking something that is not Coke out of Coke bottles and playing the radio loud. I am not afraid, and I sweetly entreat them to please turn it down. They respond with words I cannot bring myself to say in public and turn it louder. I will not be afraid, and I politely invite them to consider noise levels and stress factors and audio pollution. And I look to the rest of the passengers for encouragement. One motherly-looking woman joins in. "Lady," she snarls, "you leave them boys alone. They ain't done nothing to you. If you don't like the music, why don't you stay home?" The rest of the passengers nod in agreement. The bus driver does not take sides. Some people are not ready for my brand of enlightenment, I am afraid. She was leaning against the wall of the stinky subway tunnel, a large plastic sack at her feet. As I passed, her voice rang out to me in dinner party tones. "I beg your pardon, could you spare a little change?" The timbre caught me by surprise. Had I heard it over canapes, it would have brought forth confidences. But in this moldy cave, I will not listen. I turn my eyes away lest they catch hers, and I hurry on, not even wondering what message she might have had for me. Should we meet again, I promise me, I'll ask her why and how. And is she no one's mother? And is she no one's child? And is there no one left to care? And how? And why? And why? And how? I saw her on the subway platform. She was tiny and bowed, and the years had done her no favors, but there was no self-pity in her eyes, and I smiled as if to say, I care. "Do you know me?" she asked. "No," I replied. "Yet you nodded to me. Will you please explain the meaning of that?" I was just being friendly. "You have no right," she admonished, snatching up her shopping bags and fluttering off like a wounded bird. I am jigging down the street, happily window shopping a gift for my favorite nephew, when I see a little round ball of a lady trying, without success, to hand leaflets to passers-by. Feeling sorry for her, I take one. She grabs my shoulder, breathing heavily. I am Madame Rosa, and you are unfortunate and unsatisfied, and life has been miserable this year. Taken aback, but amused, I put my hand on her shoulder, replying, I am very satisfied. I have a nice big house, and very fortunate. My husband gives me everything I need, and life has been wonderful. We went to Paris, France this year. She will not buy my argument. If you will come with me and let me read the cards, my God-giving powers will remove the curse that scars your soul and chills your home. No need, thank you kindly, I reply, strolling away casually, while a voice within wonders, what does she know that I don't know? What does she see that I don't see? Oh, nothing, I replied, tossing her calling card to the ground. But my ancient heart pounds, pounds, pounds. Lifting the parcel off the supermarket treadmill, I hear myself saying, I hate all this waiting in line for a loaf of bread. Well then, would I have loved my work were it felling the trees, clearing the brush, piling the rocks, plowing the earth, bedding the seed, watching the moon, praying the rain, battling the bugs, standing with gun cocked for marauder, racing raccoon to the first tender ears, picking the yield in the wild August sun, husking it, drying it, scraping it, pounding it, and baking it for my bread? Would I have loved my work then? I am very happy. I am very happy. The words pop out gratuitously. Nothing special happened. No pat on the back, no praise, no prize, no printed deed to say I have accomplished thus and such. No long-awaited job or letter or phone call from the kids to say they're fine. Just this joy of being. And oh, so welcome. I recall a time when life was colorless, when prisms flung no rainbows forth, when the giddy lights of evening cast no spell, when sound was monotone and touch had lost the feel of love. Was that I? How could that unfeeling self feel such pain? The pond stinks. The wind is still. The carcass of a mallard lies rotting on the spillway. The 5 goslings are all dead. Goldfish gasp for breath in the shallowing water. The pond is dying. If I were God, this would not be happening. But I am, and it is. Radiation from a broken reactor seeps over a Pennsylvania countryside and the whole world is scared. Radiation from a broken reactor seeps over a Ukrainian countryside and the whole world is scared. Little wars sparkle round the globe like fireworks in a nighttime sky, and the whole world is scared. The earth aches from despoilment of her private parts, and the whole world is scared. Can we afford to sit in this ivory tower playing metaphysical games when the whole world is scared? Can we afford not to? I am asked, what is it like being older? Older. The word is eased to tenderize my feelings. And then, when did you get over being scared of death? She was sure that I was somehow old enough to have gotten over being scared of death. The heart scurries around at the very thought, looking for comfort, whatever one might think of afterlives. I say, reading an obituary, oh my, only 63, so young. Mother died at 85, and it was too soon. We chorused, by the sea, by the sea, by the beautiful sea, in riotous harmony that last week. She would have danced a jig could she have risen from her bed. For myself, I'd like to hang around till I'm at least 100 and celebrate the next millennium. I hope we make it worth my while. I have always loved old people. People with a bit of flesh on them and the look of knowing in their eyes. Had I one wish which could not be denied, it would be to grow old beautifully. The children want me to go to a really nice Golden Age hotel where the food is great and they have razzmatazz dances and take trips to museums. After all, Mother, they say, you are 84 years young. Old. I am 84 years old. Do not humiliate me with euphemisms. I am not a senior citizen. I am an old lady. I am not a golden ager. I am an old lady. Easy does it, Ma. You have the rheumatiz. Rheumatiz, my foot. A little stroke is closer to it. Twice already, and 3 times is out. It's my body, and I know what's happening to it. So forget the malarkey about trips to museums. I can hardly take a trip to the bathroom in my own house. But don't shut me off from the sounds of the living, the sweet milk oohing of a nursing baby, the kids screaming up the stairs after school, the call of a neighbor passing by, the crusty bark of the fierce Pekingese, the hoot and holler of a backyard ball game, the whispered anguish of a late-night quarrel, the Magoo voice of the parson come to call. Let me see the wintry chill beyond the comfort of the kitchen lamp at dusk, and let my loved ones gather by my bed, and let me say farewell in my own time and leave with love. This is about the beginning and the sinuous, sensuous, sibilant, serpentine snake. Some say I stand for wisdom. Some, the electromagnetic source of force, the crystalline flash of enlightenment, the lemniscate, symbol of eternity, infinity, totality, beginninglessness, endlessness, like Ouroboros swallowing his tail. Immortal, life-giving, life-saving life force, ever renewing, ever sustaining, ever transforming. Phallic, the consort of the primordial mother, and therefore good. Some say I stand for resurrection and call me Savior. Contrariwise, some say I am the fallen angels, Samael, Lucifer. Some say that I am the wicked demiurge who created both this evil world and carnal man. Some say I am the force of all darknesses, author of awful, patron of pain, master of evil, defiler of Eve, guilt maker, sin maker, shame maker, tempter, wily, demonic, Phallic, the source of reproduction and therefore evil, all that is loathly and sickening, disgusting and foul. So which, you be the judge, which, tell me, as you feel yourself explode into cosmic consciousness as I rise up your spine. Tell me, as you see me gliding up the staffs of Mercury and Asclepius, as you see me entwined around the skirts of Hera or emblazoned on the shield of Athena, tell me whether what I did, I, who mediate between the world above and the world below, I, who can both cure and kill, I, who am affirmative and negative, active and passive, tell me whether what I did in the Garden of Eden was good or evil. You be the judge. This is the way that it was. When the uncreated universe was without form and void, and darkness lay upon the face of the deep, before time began and space was, when the uncreated universe lay without form on the void, the great I am, that I am, uttered the primordial vibratory sound, the resounding, resonating heartthrob of the universe, the essential organizing principle of the cosmos, the primal, creative, Hebrew, mantric vowel, diphthong. Oi, oi, oi. Hello up there, I beg your pardon, what's the problem? Hello down there? No problem, it's just I'm tired, I'm lonely, I'm bored. Why don't you do something? Create the universe, for example. Don't be such a smart aleck. I did.
I made the heavens and the earth, and I divided the light from the darkness, and I made the firmament. And I separated the waters above from the waters below, and I made the dry land to appear. And I made the trees and the flowers and the vegetables and the weeds. And I made the sun and the moon and the stars. And I made the creepy crawlies and the swimmers and the flyers and the four-legged walkers. And I made a two-legged walker named Adam out of a mud pie and some dust and some mist. And I made a two-legged walker named Eve from a bone. And I put them in a jeweled paradise, a garden of celestial delight. And all day long they frisk and frolic, frisk and frolic, frisk and frolic. All day long they frisk and frolic, frisk and frolic, frisk. Oh, you want to know from boring for eternity, you should watch Adam and Eve frisk and frolic. Well, of course you're bored, sir. These creatures that you've made, they do nothing, they think nothing, they have nothing, they want nothing, they try nothing, they fail nothing, they win nothing, they lose nothing, they grieve nothing, they dread nothing, they dream nothing, they hope nothing. Nothing happens. There's no beginning, no middle, no end. There is no story. That's right, that's right. What I wouldn't give for one good story, a good happening. Well, that's easy, sir. Tell them about the tree. Don't be such a smart aleck. I did. I told them. In the garden is a tree, and on that tree is a fruit, and that fruit is a no-no. One taste and you shall surely die. Oh, dear God, you've missed the point. They must eat the fruit if you want a story. Oi, that's right, that's right. I wasn't thinking, oi, did I make a smart fellow when I made you? That's what's missing, a story. They must know expansion and contraction and push and pull. They must become conscious, know decision and despair and choices and polarities. Polarities, polarities, if you want a story. Oi, that's right, that's right. They must know life and death and peace and strife and wisdom and folly and beauty and ugliness and sterility and fertility and dominion and all right, I get the point. They must learn to live in the four worlds of will and intellect and emotion. I get it enough already. But what can I do? You want the great I am that I am should change his mind in the middle? Suddenly I should say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, go eat, suffer. I can't. I am a God of mercy and compassion. I can't do that. You could maybe, but I can't. You could. I beg your pardon, sir, you're not suggesting. Well, you could. You're a very convincing fellow. I wouldn't hear of it, sir. For an old friend, a buddy, a pal, it's out of the question. A partner? Well, since you put it that way, I could give it a try. Oh, Eve, Eve, I have something for you.
Oh, thank you, but what's his name said we mustn't.
He was just testing you to see if you have a mind of your own.
What's a mind?
One taste and you will be filled with boundless enthusiasm.
What's enthusiasm?
One taste and you will know unending curiosity.
What's curiosity?
One taste and you will be boss of the creepy crawlies and the swimmers and the flyers and the four-legged walkers. Why, the very fruits of the field will stand at attention when you walk by. You'll be like God himself, except you'll be so busy you won't have time to be bored.
What's busy? What's bored?
One taste and you will know.
I'm sorry, what's his name said it's a no-no?
Oh, my dear, you misunderstood. He didn't mean no, no, N-O. He meant no, no, K-N-O-W, no. One taste and you will know.
Oh, well,
In that case, oh, Adam, have I got something for you? Well, there you are, sir. Let the tale begin. Thanks.